everyone. Welcome to the Legal Aid Society's live interview with Reentry attorney Savannah and our fearless, wonderful leadership cabinet chair, Martesha Johnson. We are so excited to have all of you on here today. Again, my name is Teresa Morrison. I am the communications manager for Legal Aid Society. Legal Aid Society is the largest nonprofit law firm in Tennessee. And today what we're really trying to do is highlight Giving Tuesday and how you can make a difference for those who are needing a second chance, particularly with expungements and reentering into society. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce both of our interviewees today. And so Savannah, you can go ahead and jump and start us off. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? We know that what organization you're with and how long you've been with this organization, and then we'll go to Martesha.
Great. So I'm Savannah Quintero. I am the Reentry Services Project Director here at Legal Aid Society. I have only been at Legal Aid since February, but this is my second stint at Legal Aid. I just can't stay away for too long, and I'm really happy to be back and be doing reentry work.
Awesome. I'm Martesha Johnson. I'm the Chief Public Defender, Nashville Defender's Office, where we represent people who have been charged with a criminal offense in Nashville, Davidson County, and they cannot afford to hire a lawyer to represent them through that process. We represent our clients from arrest to jury trial, and then we handle their appeals on the cases that we represented them at trial for. We also have a juvenile division, an education rights division, and an appeals team, and all of our support staff of investigators, client advocates, and administrators who help us really defend Nashville. It's been a privilege to be a member of this office my entire legal career. I've been at the Public Defender's Office for I'm just shy of 15 years, and I've been the Chief Public Defender now for 5 years.
Let's go, 15 years, girl.
Almost,
love
honestly.
It. Well, thank
Just
you
shy.
guys. Yes, well, thank you both so much for just all the work that you're already doing and the time that you spent at these organizations. So starting off with you, Martesha, can you describe the specific programs and services your program provides to support those going through the reentry process? And then we'll go over to Savannah.
Absolutely. So the Metro Charter is sort of what created the Nashville Defender's Office. And that charter is really specific around what I can and can't do. So whereas the Legal Aid Society and all of your great programming can kind of holistically represent your clients in their adjacent civil housing reentry issues, I'm a little bit more limited in what I can do to help people. And so I can only represent our clients who have criminal charges. And that does mean that I get to touch all of the issues of their case. So we certainly get involved in the process of helping our clients reenter their communities after an encounter with the criminal legal system. Mainly what that looks like for us is we provide resources. We have a client services and mitigation team who helps us sort of stay in contact with community-based resources that can help our clients. We have a paralegal team in our office, and one specific paralegal who provides services for our clients who are in need of driver's licenses. So that's a big service that we help people sort of navigate through that process. We file affidavits of indigency and requests for fees to be waived for our clients at the end of their cases in criminal courts. If they have completed their case or on completing probation or whatever stage of the case is, we file motions to help them with relief of fees. We also assist in the process of helping people get their voter rights restored. We can't take that all the way through for every person that needs it, but for our clients who we have represented, we can provide those services. We also continue to be a part of their community and their legal team if they are on some type of supervised release. There have been times when I have had to write a letter for a client to an apartment complex or a job, or, we just stay a part of their resource team and really a part of their team that's really championing for them to be able to exist in the world as whole and restored people. I firmly believe that once people from day one, there's still humanity and dignity in all the folks who have contacts with the criminal legal system. But certainly once they have completed whatever that period of incarceration or that period of supervision is, we should be collectively as a community trying to make sure we welcome them back into those communities, because that's really the only way that we can try our best to help them be successful.
Wow, thank you so much. No, that was wonderful. And we'll jump over to Savannah.
So we do a lot of the things that Martesha talked about here at Legal Aid. I think my goal is to help people with any sort of legal barrier that they encounter as they're coming out. That could be helping with expungement, that could be helping with the driver's licenses. We do a lot of that as well. It can be really, really tough to get your driver's license, and you got to have one if you're living in Tennessee. So that's something we do a lot. And we also help with the voting rights restoration. We actually have a project right now where we're partnering volunteer attorneys with Tennesseans that are looking to get their voting rights restored. Our kickoff for that is actually today, and we're hoping to get our first petitions with that new program filed by the end of the year. So we're hoping that we'll kind of mobilize, kind of an army of attorneys in Tennessee to respond to some recent changes that have made it harder for folks to restore their civil rights. So that's a big part of what we do. And otherwise, I just want to be creative. There's a lot of civil legal barriers that are going to impact someone who is reentering. And we've made it really, really tough for folks that have had, criminal justice involvement. And I think that, at Legal Aid, we can provide really holistic services, from housing to expungement to kind of help folks get back on their feet and kind of overcome some of these legal barriers that can kind of seem overwhelming. So that's what we try to do for folks as they're reentering.
Yes, and you talked a little bit about the barriers, and I had a specific question for you, Savannah, that just talks about like what are some unique challenges you are seeing with clients who are reentering after incarceration or trying to get their civil legal issues taken care of.
I mentioned driver's licenses, but I think that that's a really unique challenge. We'll have folks that have criminal histories in maybe several different counties and court costs that they owe in several different counties. And I know it takes me hours and lots of time to go to every single county that they need to go in to, do whatever needs doing to release the holds on their license. And I just don't know if I didn't have a lawyer helping me with this, if I would ever get my license back. It's just overwhelming for some of our folks. So I think that's a huge barrier, and you can't get to work. You can't get to see your kids, to do all of the things that we talk about that we want. It's a dignity thing. Like Martesha said, it's, without a driver's license, it's really tough in Tennessee. So that's a really big thing. And something that's baked into that's also a really huge barrier that Martesha also touched on is court costs.
Yes.
Court costs will prevent you from restoring your civil rights. Court costs will prevent you from getting a driver's license. Court costs will prevent you from expungement. They really prevent you from moving on. And our folks are the folks that will not be able to afford to pay those court costs. And so it's just a lingering barrier.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't help folks get over that, that's the rest of their lives. So we focus a lot on helping folks deal with court costs, remove that as a barrier so that folks can move on.
Yes.
And I think that, expungement is another huge kind of area where we deal. And getting your record expunged can help you find housing, find meaningful, gainful employment. I think that, that's another thing where if we're able to clear someone's record, it can really mean a lot for someone to get some of that put behind them and expunged.
Yes. Sorry, I try not to get so emotional. Like you're talking to me and like just like knowing how much that just all these services can really impact somebody's emotional well-being, their physical well-being, their financial well-being, but also just you talked about the connection between their families. Like some of them can't even see their families. So I'm not going to cry, I promise. But I do want to talk a little bit, just talking about the clients and then how legal services or providing legal services can really impact their lives. So for Martesha, what role do legal services play in assisting people reentering with issues related to parole, probation, including violations and compliance?
Absolutely. But I want to touch a little bit on the previous question that you asked about the just sort of general barriers that people have. Savannah, I agree with everything she said. And one thing I want to highlight is we don't, as a world, make it easy for people to reenter into their communities, whether it is just because we have stigmatized them and placed them in this sort of category of criminal, whether it is a legal barrier that we have created to keep people just really in a cycle of being involved in the criminal legal system. We have done everything we can that once you have an encounter with the criminal legal system, we have made it almost impossible for you to have a meaningful and successful life. And that is from housing. We've made it almost impossible for people to be able to get public housing if they have certain convictions on their record. In some cases, they can't even go visit family members. They can't, be released from custody and then go stay with a family member in public housing. We have made it impossible for them to find gainful employment in some areas because of prior criminal history. And so what we all know, because we are working adults in this community, is that if we don't have a safe place to live, if we don't have meaningful ways that we can gain our resources, pay our bills, have the type of quality of life we want, then that creates a level of hopelessness that, from my lens, as someone who does direct representation of people all the time in the criminal legal system, that cycle of hopelessness and poverty really are contributing factors to why people find themselves incarcerated to begin with. And so we just keep building on that. We keep putting people in that cycle that makes it almost impossible for them to climb out. I've represented people who had a criminal offense at 18 and now they are 60 years old. And that same 18-year-old conviction is plaguing them at 60 as it did when they were first charged and convicted. And that's really a problem. It really is a problem in a world where whatever the reason is that someone has that conviction or that period of incarceration or supervision, we really should be focusing in a way that makes that it's done when it's done. And we are embracing people and giving them the resources to reenter their communities. I think that legal services are critical in this conversation about reentry. We are advocates, number one, but we are certainly advocates for our folks who, if we are not here to help them and empower them in many ways in their cases, there's no one willing, there aren't a lot of people who are doing that. We're doing a lot of talking around here about storytelling. It's one of our focuses for our client cases. Yes. And we're talking about it from a frame of, if you are not telling your story, if you are not, pushing those stories to be told, then who's going to do it? And I sort of have that same approach when I have those very frustrating days as a public defender where I feel like the world is against me and my clients. Yes. The workloads are crushing. It is difficult to do this work. But I really sort of go back to a place of, if we are not here fighting and advocating at the yes. direct representation courtroom level, at the sort of civil legal level where we're helping people connect them to services after, here to help them expunge records, to fight on Capitol Hill when there are changes that come about and we have something to say about that. If we're not here to do that, then we know that it is easy to forget a lot of our clients. And so that, I think, is the most critical piece of how legal services and how people who are engaged in this discussion about reentry can be helpful in this space, because we have that specialized knowledge. We went to school to be advocates. I work every day across the street from a courthouse that has an etched little statement on the side of it that says the first duty of society is justice. And so this is all a part of that. We can't have a just society where we are willing to exclude a whole section of people just because they've had an involvement in the criminal legal system. So I think that is one of the most important parts of how the legal system and legal services can be a part of this reentry conversation, and should be, quite frankly.
I just want to be like, yes, yes. No, that was really well said and really beautiful. And, you talked a lot about not just like legal services, but our communities coming together. So I want to ask, how can our communities, like other nonprofits, local community members, come in and support legal services and helping clients with getting an expungement? And you can talk about maybe partnerships you already have or things that you think can happen and would be beneficial.
Savannah, you want to take that one first?
I'm happy to. We work with a lot of different kind of nonprofit social service type programs, and they're absolutely invaluable. I'm a social worker as well as an attorney, and I think that having someone that can, we need to view our clients as whole people. They're not just an expungement I need to file. They're not just some petition I need to file. They're a person with lots of different needs that kind of intersect and that will impact each other. So I think that in thinking about helping my clients, if I'm not thinking about other needs that they have beyond their legal needs, I think I'm kind of doing them a disservice. I think that we are at our best when we're working with other social service providers to kind of come together holistically and really wrapping our arms around these folks and making sure they get everything that they need. An expungement's not going to mean much to you if you don't know where you're going to sleep tonight.
Yes.
If you don't know what you're going to eat tomorrow, I don't know how you focus on finding a job. So working with the folks that we get to work with is really just invaluable. We really value all of our kind of social service partners. They do the work that we can't do, and it's really important for our folks. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think that, as lawyers, we have only so much we can do. Even if we do have the ability to provide holistic representation, it still takes a community of people who we can connect folks to. I have clients who, come into my office all the time, and I have to, we have to figure it out. I have my communications and community liaison is always sort of pressing us to like, hey, we need to start a food pantry. We need to expand our clothing closet for this. We need to build a stock of shoes for this. And while those are all beautiful things that I wish I would be able to house, I don't have the ability to keep up with the demand in that. But what we can do with the collaboration of nonprofits, there are already people who provide those services in our community that we should be able to provide some sort of wraparound support to. There should be someone I could call up when someone is being released from custody who needs clothing, shoes, food, transportation, a hot meal, that we can sort of wrap that all around, because those are just basic necessities that we need before we can even get to the expungements, court costs, all of those pieces. Sometimes our clients are getting out of their periods of incarceration and they don't have any of their documents that they need. We need folks who can help us on the grounds with just helping people. That's really what it's about. Resources are key. So I think any organization that can provide resources to these programs that exist is important, but then it really is, beneficial to all of us who are fighting this same fight to be able to collaborate to move the needle for our clients.
Perfect. Well, both of you, thank you so much. And before we end this live, I want to know, is there something we might have missed, or like final things that you think that those who are watching should know, in particular to Reentering Society and the services you provide?
I think people generally understand the issues, but for some, It takes an actual encounter with someone who is trying to reenter their community, or there are times where people participate in reentry simulations and they can get some of the effects that people have. But just an understanding and a heart for folks is critical here. Everybody, the majority of people who are going into custody or convicted of some criminal offense and they're experiencing a period of supervision, they are going to reenter our communities. That is the great majority of folks. Almost more than 90% of people are at some point coming back to their community. And so knowing that, we should be creating a world that allows people to be a part of this community and thrive. We are not the best city that we can be. We are not the best Nashville, the best city anywhere in this country. We're not the best that we can be if we are actively excluding a portion of individuals because they had an encounter with the criminal legal system. I firmly believe that people are more than the worst thing they've ever done, and people deserve second chances. And being able to re-enter your community is truly about providing a second chance. And we all, whether small or very large, have been deserving of a second chance in our lives. And so I think this cause is critical. It is key. We need more volunteers. We need more resources and funding to be able to help the great number of folks who need that assistance, because it is incredibly difficult to try and re-enter after periods of incarceration. So I want people to have that heart for knowing that, we wouldn't be on this Zoom talking about the issue or doing this work day to day if it wasn't a real issue with a real need. And so more people to engage in the fight, pick up the banner with us and help folks would be sort of the one thing that I would say I would want to leave people with.
Wonderful.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I think that there's such a tendency to other these people that have criminal justice involvement. Those people are over there. They are separate from me. They are not real human beings. They're not real people, three-dimensional people. And just like Martesha said, they are part of our communities, and we can try to exclude them all we want, but number one, we can't. Number two, we shouldn't. They are our mothers, fathers, children, sisters, brothers, and they're real human beings. And I think that the best thing anybody can do is meet folks with criminal justice involvement, spend time with them, talk to them about their families, their likes, their interests, what's going on with them. These are real human beings, and we've got to do better by them. So I would just encourage folks to be a part of these communities that are helping these folks and making sure we do a better job of including these folks.
Well said, both of you. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for being here today and just speaking on these issues and then ways that we can support. I want to also give a big thank you to everybody who's watching right now. At the end of this video, you will see a slide that tells you how you can get involved, whether that is you become a volunteer with Legal Aid Society, or you donate to the reentry services and the needs that our clients have right now. So again, thank you so much. And we hope to see that you guys are getting involved with Giving Tuesday and supporting the causes that matter. So both of you, thank you. And you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you
So much, Teresa. Thank you, Martesha.